sort of start diving into the personal side. So let's talk about that. What does a culture at home actually means? So if you go back to the definition, talking about societies, group of people, certain things, right? Certain beliefs, right? That are core. Just go down to the fundamentals. What is your belief as soon as you get home? What is your belief with your partner? Let's just go one by one. Do you make time? Do you prioritize your time with your partner to at least have dinner, to have open communication? Hey, how was your day? How is this happening? Did you allow yourself to decompress?
Sometimes for some of these values, you need to understand why, because you buy in the why. You don't buy in a word. You don't buy in a definition. You buy in the why. And welcome to the Alchemy of Success,
your podcast for career, personal, and consciousness expansion. I'm Pedro.
I'm Anna. And today's topic is the importance of culture. Pedro, what does culture mean?
Yeah. So let's look that up. So what does this website tell us? Okay, so here's what culture is as per the definition, right? The customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. Anna, what do you think about that?
Oh, that's pretty statement. It's like dance, not moving, right?
Yeah. Doesn't seem alive, right?
Yeah. What do you think culture means or should means in our world, in this world of expansion and speed, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think the culture really should mean more of what is the people, what are the faculties, what are the institutions inside of me that need to be awakened and reunited? What is something that I need to connect with, right? And more importantly, what is it that I'm learning and I'm imprinting to everybody around me? All of it, right? Like, and how does that apply outside of me, right? So culture is like a living and moving environment because it's all about you. It's what you do, is what you are, and how the actions take place. So.
But does this work? You know, when we take, for example, a company, a business, or doesn't matter, you can take also a family, you know, and we talk about culture, and if everyone bring their own culture and everyone live from their own culture, what is the common ground to align and to meet? So, or is there something else that need to be created in this interaction in the different areas? You know, doesn't matter whether personal or the business world.
Yeah. I mean, the common thing to really hold everything kind of together is, I think anyway, is really the communication. Because when you communicate, you're actually embodying it, right? So it's missing that piece, because how many people actually, Anna, that you know, talk about, oh, by the way, I have this great culture in my company. I have great relationships here and there, or I have an amazing group of people. I mean, I wish I could hear more of that consistently, but it's really, most of the time is the opposite, isn't it? Isn't it the opposite, that there isn't really a bonding or a culminating of all these different aspects of the communication part between two people or a group of people, right? They're not really connecting. I don't think there's a connective tissue there. So that's why I wanted to actually ask you, Anna, is what are the challenges that you see within culture in general, just in general?
So, you know, I have been working so first I moved from one culture, living in one country, to another culture. Mm-hmm. And what I embody for myself was, okay, I'm coming to another culture. There is another rules, a set of rules. There is another way how the people interact. So I start learning and integrating in more, you know, not losing my before. But that is because, like you said, it was some kind of, you felt it. When you come in a new country, you somehow feel, you know, the culture. The experience that I had in companies, and the very interesting part was my first company where I work. When I joined, they were looking for someone to create an image movie for the new direction of their culture, for their new values. And as I have been studying film and animation, I just, offered my skills to go and create this one. And, when I went deeper on what are the values, what they're looking for to express, and I put it into this image film, and then I started working in this company more and more, I realized that there was a gap between something that some people sitting on the top level and maybe having some consultancy from outside, some marketing tools, whatever, and defining what should be the values of the company, how they want to be expressed, but not really, like you said, not only communicating it, but really imprinting it into the organization, into starting with the top leadership, going down to the middle management leadership, and really showing the people why these values are important, why the company wants this value to live. Because sometimes, I can tell you, open communication, perfect, but I needed to see that open communication is happening, first point. And second, sometimes for some of these values, you need to understand why, because you buy in the why. You don't buy in a word. You don't buy in a definition. You buy in the why. And back there, when I started, I wasn't an any management point, directly after my university finalizing. And I was this very excited to really start my first job in a huge corporation. And, when I started with this learning what kind of beautiful values this company had, I was very excited. And 1 month later, when I actually started working there, I realized that not everybody was really, first, they didn't know what are the values, what was the culture, and of course, when you don't know it, you don't live it. But yet, if you still knew it, I saw that not a lot of people was willing to change their way of communication or culture to that what, like top management wanted. So, this gap between that is what we wanted to call culture and actually living and breathing it into the whole company till the, till the bottom, through all layers. Or did you have another experiences, in challenging topics?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a perspective from the following, right? Where, for example, we would have a lot of meetings. A bunch of executives talk about, okay, what are the things that we need to do to maybe help motivate the employees or get them more in tune, right, with their goals and so on and so forth. And obviously, when we talk to these people, part of the executives would be somebody representing from HR. One of the biggest things is, and this has been called out many times, it's easy to write something in a piece of paper. It's another thing to actually practice it in everything that you do. So culture should not be multiple lines of, an entire paragraph. It should be very simple because it needs to define the core of the type of person you want to bring into your organization. So the challenges that we typically have is if you really want to have a company that's living the culture, like you said, right? You have to find the employees, and it starts at the interviewing process. Do they have the morals, the qualities, and everything else that I want to embody in my organization that I know will allow them to be successful? And more importantly, they're also going to allow us to be successful as an organization, right? There's going to be a good match. So most of the time that doesn't really happen in the interview process. I'll be honest with you. It really just more focus on what I need to achieve. Okay, my goals as a manager is A, B, and C. Culture is not necessarily at the top. That's all the way down at the bottom. That's really what it works. It's really, can this person execute the tasks that I have in front of them, regardless of their level? Can they deliver against this? So it's not something that you start with. It's something that's sort of nice to fill at the bottom. So I know there are definitely organizations that do an excellent job of this, right? But the most of the people that I've seen, that I've spoken to, right, even some of the companies that I work with, they don't really embody it because it doesn't start at the core level. It doesn't start at the first time they take a step inside that company. It doesn't start there. It doesn't. It just becomes something you say every meeting. Every time you talk to your employees, oh, the culture this, culture that, but even the employees know that that's not real. So there's a lot of issues, right?
And you know what? When you say it's not something, it's easier to write it down in a meeting, but it's something else to like really bring it into the company, or it could be also, could be also in your friendships, circle. It's not just about company. It could be what actually me as an employee back there, what I actually wanted to experience it instead of trying to put something down, what the top level of management is saying, actually to come and ask what the people are looking for. What do we, as, the one bringing the company forward, what are the values we want to see? Is it a culture of open communication? Is it a culture where you can go to your manager and you can express disagreement with the knowingness that it will be seen from a neutral place and not seen as a personal, like, conflict creation, for example? Would it be a culture of, for example, nowadays, after the whole crazy things happening in 2020, where you have to trust in your employee to work from at home and to trust them to really be able to deliver the quality of jobs and not really forcing them to go to the office, for example, all this kind of stuff. So to really ask, what do you need in order to have an environment where you feel seen, appreciated, having area to thrive, and you can deliver the best work you can do because you have this environment. So, culture is like the environment to really being able to express to the best of your ability, to express your potential.
Absolutely. So, and it really falls down, and they will dive into the personal side of things. So, to finish off the corporate side, right? The business, the career side is there's tangibles and intangibles. Here's what it means for an organization, right? The tangibles is, okay, the programs I need to invest in, the people, the resources I need to invest in, right? Because it does require an investment. To have a healthy, thriving culture, it does require an investment. So once you figure out what the tangibles are that you need to put into practice, then falls the intangibles. What are the qualities? What are the qualities you want to have with the employees, right? So those are the things that you need to constantly be focused on, is making sure that you build a structure around it, the ecosystem where it can thrive, but then also work on the inside, what the employee should have, should be proud of, should embody, and the managers as well, not just the employees, more importantly, the managers, because they're looked up on. They're like, okay, is my manager actually saying is he delivering what he's saying, right? So there's a conflict there, right? So we want to make sure.
Integrity.
Absolutely. So that's why you falls back to those two things, tangibles and intangibles, right? So that's what an organization has to start thinking about these different things. So that's sort of how it works. Now, I want to sort of start diving into the personal side. So let's talk about that. What does a culture at home actually means? So if you go back to the definition, talking about societies, group of people, certain things, right? Certain beliefs, right? That are core. Just go down to the fundamentals. What is your belief as soon as you get home? What is your belief with your partner? Let's just go one by one. Do you make time? Do you prioritize your time with your partner to at least have dinner, to have open communication? Hey, how was your day? How is this happening? Did you allow yourself to decompress? Did you allow your partner to decompress? Did you allow your partner to share what she or he might have gone the day? That is a culture from a partner perspective that's probably lost somewhere in the middle, because it talks about your priorities. So what is the culture you're building at home? That's just one example with your partner. Now let's go down with your kids, right? Then you go down with your kids. Am I spending same thing? Am I spending enough time with my kids? Right? Am I communicating?
And it's less about the time, it's the quality.
The quality of the time. Exactly. And I want you to dive into that.
Quality, I see it with my son.
Absolutely.
I used to do, and I wasn't aware of that. Watch TV with him or watch a film, and I grabbed my phone unconsciously. I didn't do it consciously, and just scroll through social media. And he turned back to me and said, Mom, can you put this aside? I thought you were watching a film with me. And I was like, oh my God, it's like this automatic doing without really, and this is, like you said, what is the culture? How do you spend the time?
Hmm. And Anna, that's so important. And I need to even add a little more to that because you're absolutely right. It's not about the time, not about the hour you spent. It's the quality of that hour. Are you really connecting with those people around you that you love, that you really are working so hard at work to provide and to give them that space, right? Are you really focused on them? And like, are you really engaged when you're talking to them? Are you actually looking them in the eye? Are you focused on the smallest little movement that they're making? Are you noticing that maybe they had a really rough day without even having to tell you? Are you that in tune with the people around you that you love? So what is the culture that you're building at home? That's why that's also important to us, you and I. This is why we're even doing this podcast is it's great to have a career because it's motivating, it's thriving, right? You want to be successful, whatever that definition is to you. But don't forget about what got you there. And it starts at home, right?
How often I go to a restaurant and then you see a couple sitting across and both with their phones,
Mm.
for example. And I can tell you what I missed when I moved to Germany from the cultural point. And I don't know how it was in your family, but in my family, the evening table was the place to get together. So it was like at the same time we sit all together and there is like always a salad. In Bulgaria, normally you have always raki, or you have a glass of wine, for the for the parents and for our children, something else. And we talk about the whole day. The TV is running. It's more about the background always, but we talk and we sit at this table 2-3 hours. Everything is around the table and we are having this social dinner because the whole day, the one is at school, the other one is at work. So evening was important to get together and to sit together and just to exchange, what was the day, how was the day, how was everything. And that was something, for example, that I truly missed when I moved here. And I took on the culture of my partner back there, that instead of really having this social dinner together, we cook 1 hour and we ate for 10 minutes.
Mm.
And that is something that, for example, I now start in changing the culture. So, because as we're talking, what is the challenge of the culture? When you got with someone together to see, okay, what was the way your partner experienced his family gathering together, culture, and you, and to sit together and to define something tangible for you both,
Mm-hmm.
That means what you say at the beginning, culture is not fixed. It's something to be every time when needed to be plan, do, review. So that means you see it, you see, okay, does it work? If not, where you can adjust it, then you live it. And if you see that it's still not completely aligned with both, and there is still like areas where it's like, no, I like to have it again, to go and to readjust it.
That's right.
And nowadays more than ever, because, your wife is also from another culture.
Mm-hmm.
So to bring these different cultures, it's challenging as the whole world is getting together. We are not living anymore, everybody in their own countries, but we're like mixing each other's, we're creating one huge family.
That's right.
It means we need
We're one race.
Yeah.
We're one race, one culture. Mm-hmm.
We are humanity, when you ask me now, what, I don't know, what nation I belongs to, I say, I'm a part of the world, like humanity,
Yeah.
I see myself like that.
And that's a perfect segue, Anna, to talk about. So we are blended. Now it's a massive world, right? There's billions of people on this planet, right? But yet we're all one, right? You've heard that. Many people have heard that, right? So what does it mean to have a singular focus on what the culture should be at the base level? Meaning, what's one of the most important fundamental things that you should have at the base level of a culture? From a family perspective, actually, from anything, it should be love and respect. If it doesn't start with that, then other things will sort of fall off the table and you won't even notice it, right? Because it's not a focus point.
And people, love has a different dimension. Okay. Don't
Correct.
think for love as like this romantic kind of
Mm-hmm.
love. Love is just being able to see the other person across you as a lovable human being. Just sorry, wanted to
No,
to jump
100%.
in.
Yeah, it's love is not just flowers and rainbows, right? Love is how do you express your love, right? There's different ways of doing that, but it's at least understanding that it is one for the whole. Meaning, I do it for me, I do it for me, but I do it for others as well because it's just an expression of me. So whatever that expression of love is to you, let that shine. Let that shine. And the corporation is what is your key morals or values that you want to embed in what you're trying to build, right? So, and whatever that is, that should be expressed also within the employee and everybody else, right? Now, I know this probably sounds very idealistic, right? It sounds like, okay, Pedro, what are you smoking, right?
Weed.
Yeah. So, no, not that.
Just some mushrooms at the beginning,
Nah,
you know?
none of that.
No,
No,
you're
clean.
coming from Ecuador, ayahuasca or no?
Nah, none of that. No,
No, okay.
no.
Just joking, guys.
Yeah, I know. So no, so serious.
And
So
that could be a part of culture, being able to joke and
yeah, absolutely. Have fun.
fun.
Don't take it seriously. You know, absolutely.
Life is way too short to take it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so it's really about finding the important points, right, in all of this. And I just want to sort of finish off the personal side of the culture. So we spoke about the partner, we spoke about the children. So that is a core family. That's really your core family. That's your extension, your parents and all that. But also talk about your friends. So if you really believe in what you're trying to build and you really believe of the type of people you want to be around with, you need to see your friends, the reflection of your friends. Are you mostly happy? Are you mostly frustrated? Right? Are you mostly like annoyed? Right? Like, what is that? And whatever emotion or whatever thing that you see that's emanating from your circle of friends is what you've created. So culture, it needs to be embodied within yourself. So you are partially responsible for that. So see if you need to fix that yourself. See if you need to, maybe I don't vibe with these people anymore. Okay, then what is the next step you need to do? Right. So it's what you embody once again. So it's actually a reflection. The people around you is usually a reflection of who you are, right? Because it's what you're attracted. So same thing at work. Same thing at work.
You're right. And what I experience is also because I used to have people in my environment that, like you said, when I expanded and changed, there wasn't aligned anymore with the way how I was. But I had also, I have friends in my tribe, in my community, that we had sometimes where we needed this distance for like 1 year, 1.5 year, where the one person needed to realign with their values. I needed to realign with my own values and then to sit together and to communicate if we wanted to get into this, friendships again. What are our values? What are the boundaries? So this was also something to communicate it, because as Jim Rohn say, I don't know whether you know him, but I love Jim Rohn. Yeah. He used to say, you are the average of the 5 people you're spending most time with. And if, the way how these 5 people live their life, boundaries, values, and so on are not aligned with you, and you cannot express freely what is important to you, so it won't help you to have a good feeling of belonging and a good culture. But if the culture is, even if you're different, to say for us is always open communication important, always able to tell you if something bothers me and to know that you won't take it personally. But me also to learn to communicate it not on a personal level, but to say this situation hurts me and not you as a person hurts me, because there is a difference between in Germany, you say, you asshole. and yeah, it's like, it's a difference to say it. You don't have this in English, but in Germany, there is a different word for you as a higher, very formal way, and for you as a friend way. So it's not so easy to say it on this formal way than to the friend part, so that it's sometimes easier to just say to your friends things that might hurt them, even if you don't mean it like that, instead for someone that is maybe your boss, your manager, whatever, but instead to realize, okay, the culture is about open communication, but very trustful and also very, how to say it, this way of respectful.
That's right. But you need to be aware that that's how you are and how you want to be, right? It starts with you.
But we talk a lot about what is important and in the different areas. What would be, if you were about to create a culture in your organization? It doesn't matter, when you take it for the one, you can just use it for all the areas. But let me say for your business, what would be the best way to define, implement, and live it?
So,
and why?
Okay, define, implement, and live it. Let's go. So define. So the way I would define it for myself, I have my own business, right? But it's employee of one, so it's easy to manage this guy's culture.
Really? I find I'm the most difficult one to manage.
No. So the culture, what I would define the culture to me is it starts with, because of what I do. So what I do, just a reminder to people, is, I help people connect into their subconscious and help them heal and expand and grow, right? So to me, obviously, there's a lot of heart into what I do. It's what I resonate with. So the person needs to be compassionate, needs to be empathetic. One of the most important things for me, any employee that would ever work for me, is they need to have that core quality. Because otherwise it will not work well with what I'm achieving, what I'm doing, and my vision for my organization, right? It's completely at odds if they don't have that singular trait. So that's the number one trait for me. That's my definition of my culture. Starts with that singular trait. And then we could define it further if we want to. Implement. Like I said, one of the biggest things that are challenged with the corporations, they don't do it at the base level, which is the interview level. When I'm interviewing somebody that's going to be joining my organization, that is the number one criteria for me. Obviously, because their skill sets, if they have specific skill sets, they wouldn't even pass the actual interview round, meaning they wouldn't have been coming in, right? So the skill set's already there from my perspective. You're sort of weeding out if they're a right fit or not. That's really what it is, right? So what I would be focused on is, do they have that intangible that's not written on the paper? Do they have that right? That melds really well with what I'm trying to achieve in my organization. Do they have that empathy? And can they grow into that? Can they grow into something more, right? In whatever their career is. But that's how I would implement it. It starts at that level. And then further implementation is you create your structure. Your structure is, okay, as a manager, we're expecting the managers to be X, Y, and Z. That's also part of the culture, because I start at the top. If you start at the top, then you start filtering down, right? So those managers will also be going through the same hiring practices I would, because they already believe and they're resonating with what I'm saying, how we need to be getting people in and achieving our goals. So it starts with the implementation at the interview level. Then it starts at the training, communication with the managerial level. Then also communication and training at every other level. How do we communicate with each other? Okay. Because I know one thing that happens a lot, and literally somebody just spoke to me about this. Gossip. Gossip sounds so innocent, nothing hurtful, but you know how toxic it is? How toxic it could break an entire department apart. And I mean, right? So
when you go now deeper on this explanation, I just want to tell you something to the one watching the podcast or listening to the podcast, depending where you're connecting with us, is what Pedro is currently sharing with you is not just a wish how he will create it, but actually he shared right before the recording of the podcast that he was working in huge corporation where he had the task to reshape, whole department and like in a different layer. So he had experienced this already in corporate, what it means to restructure and to bring culture. So definitely listen careful. It's an expertise on a higher level.
So you just reminded me of something, Anna, that I'm going to share, right? So just to give people an example, when you build that culture and it's tight, right? For example, I came over, I'm not going to mention the company's name, but I came over. My task was to basically rebuild it because a lot of stuff was happening. People were disgruntled, many long hours, so on and so forth, right? Not a good, wasn't efficient, not producing results, all these different things, right? So I went there, and once I started establishing what my vision is, how we're going to get there, people, processes, and systems. I always start with those three, right? People is always number one. So how we get there. When I started putting that into place, and it took to fully, completely implement it, took me 12 months, literally a year, right? Because I had to go one by one and every department, right? And just really focus on the employee. But essentially, after that was done, guess what happened? The people that remained that were still not resonating with what I've built, they started quitting because they felt so out of place because they saw that this group of people are just resonating at a totally different level that they felt out of place, not because of what we did, because it's just how we are as a unit now. Like everybody had their backs. Everybody was talking to each other kindly. Everybody was, supporting each other and making sure that we also hold ourselves accountable. That's the key. We're great, one singular unit. We work as a unit. So we achieve or we fail as a unit. Very important. That means everybody's responsible for the roles.
But there is something that maybe you need to clarify for me and for the listeners. You say you implemented your vision, but how you came to this vision? Because, it's not like, it sounds like you come and you have your vision, doesn't matter what the people wanted, and you just implemented it. I suppose you had some kind of exploration to define what the
absolutely.
best culture for the company is. That is what I.
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. So when I was hired, right, I already know based on the interview and then obviously working a couple of weeks in, when you've been doing this for so long, you already sense right away. You know the pain points. You start interviewing people, meaning talking to them, right, understanding what's going on, get their perspectives. You want to always get their perspectives. Quickly, I saw what the issue was, right? As you talk to all these different department heads, right? Then talk to the employees. I talked to all the employees, right? So speak to all the employees and
so
just really
did the interviews.
Oh, really? Absolutely.
Okay. So you went to the core.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I went to the core, even though they're not interviewing for new positions, but I'm just asking them questions. How are they working? How are they doing? What do they feel about this? How's this happening? So yes, I went to the core. So what I tell people, how I would do it, I actually have done it, right? So you don't need to have new employees. You could do it with your existing employees. Like you said, Anna, culture needs to be alive. So you're always communicating with them, touching bases with them to see what's going on. Where's the ins, where's the outs, what's working, what's not working. This is why this is a great example, because once you do that, you establish, we become one. We absolutely become one. We're a very tight unit. And the people that were not resonating with that, for whatever reason, they feel out of place. And it wasn't intentional.
They cannot gossip anymore because nobody's listening.
They can't. Because they know it's not the way we work anymore. It's not what feels right anymore. And plus, what I've shown actually gives you more productivity. And you feel better. You feel like your boss is actually listening to you because he's talking to you. He's connecting with you at lunch randomly or just walking in the hallway, just, hey, how's it going, right? Like just little things like that. So you're no longer completely that person that's in the corner and all that stuff. So when they're used to that for so long and they want to be in that place, that's perfectly fine. Absolutely. But they won't resonate anymore. So that's why some people just start leaving. This is just a natural thing that happens. So
but it's okay.
It's okay. It's perfectly fine. But what I'm saying is when you build that culture, things like this actually happen. Now, the question you probably could also ask me is, what was the culture of the company to begin with? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I read it. I wasn't interviewed about it. It never came up, but I read what it was, what it said on the website. So I'm like, okay, fine. They're not living it. Perfectly fine. I'm going to do my own. Once I do
Mm-hmm.
my interviews, when I figure out what I want to do, what the vision is, right? After I talk to everybody, where we need to go, I'm going to build my own culture. And that's what I did. So the word of advice here is the following. Even if your company has a defined culture in writing on their website, right? And they're not living it, doesn't matter. Because you still have the ability, you're still empowered to build your own. However you want to build that, however, whatever resonates with you, whatever will bring you success and passion and inspiration, you have the ability to build your own if you want to.
And yet, depending on where you are, is still need to align with the people, because maybe my culture, part of the culture will be to be gossiping, So, I think it's this dancing between, okay, that is the communication, but I can define in my own department, in my own area, how I can, what are the values that I like to experience with the people around me and in my area of, expertise. And yet I think even if you're not on a higher management position, and we were talking about that in the last episode, is we can gather facts about
Mm-hmm.
what we experience and we can go to the right people who has the influence and to say, that is what the culture says. That is what we experience. And that is what I see from my perspective. So that is a topic we're going to speak in another episodes about being a leader, no matter which position you have in the company, when you put these facts and figures together and being courageous, because if you like where you work and what you do, you can get the courage, put the figures together, facts together and bring it to the right people and point it out and say, and that is how you lose the people. That is, so that is, everybody can do it. If you're courageous to put it and you want to change something, you can do it in every, layer, and
You brought up an excellent point, Anna. So let's say I'm going to go with your example, which is beautiful, by the way. What if my culture is to be a gossip? You said that, right? How about if my culture is to be a gossip? Not saying you, but if a person just wants to do that, right? Because they're used to it.
I
Well,
can wear the shoes just for the example, I know it's not me, so that's why I don't have the problem.
yeah. So if a person has that, right? Guess what's going to happen to the people that are high performers and are not into that vibe? Guess what's going to happen? The people that are high performers, they feel like they don't need to go down the path of being gossipy, yet maybe other people are, or a majority of people in their department is. The high performers, the people that are completely opposite view of that culture, will do exactly what the other people have done, which is leave. So guess who ends up losing? The company, the department, the manager, right? And also the other employees that are still gossiping. Why? Because if that person's very efficient, I'm pretty sure they're picking up some slack somewhere, somehow, right? So it all affects everything, right? So just be careful. To your point, be very careful and be honest with yourself. Is this really the culture I want to be in? Is the culture I want to exude and implement every day? Doing this. If it's not helpful, I probably recommend you reassess and just try something different. Just try something different. So yeah,
Definitely.
it works both ways.
And we talk about probably large companies, but I remember back there when I was doing my business, I had a team, and that was cool because everybody was like self-employed, so I didn't had the power or the executive power to force people to lead the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I needed to inspire people to create a culture as a team and to live by this culture. And how we did it actually is that we created a workshop. So we had we get together for many hours, and we wanted to have it a little more, like how to say it, better to remember it. So we took the word leadership and we gave to each and, every single, chart, L, E, A, and so on. We define one character traits, one things that we value, and we as a whole team want to experience. And for example, the L was loyalty, being loyal, and so on and so on. And that was beautiful because we work it out together. But also, like you said, we were also accountable to, if somebody doesn't live this, culture, or doesn't really communicate the way how we define it, or act the way, to really being courageous enough to go and to point it out and to question and to see why it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have the issue to even take people out that, like you said, wasn't resonating with this culture. Didn't want it to have this unity way of working together and expanding, but instead try to bring some negative frequency, to say this way, or influence or gossiping, where I said, okay, no. And as a leader, and if you have, your own business or huge company, you should be the gatekeeper for the culture. Because if you don't have this gatekeeper functionality, it's gonna start, it's like taking plain water, and starting pouring, for example, a dark fluid inside. How quickly this plain water will become dark. With the first drop, it's getting in the gray area. With the second one, it's getting darker and darker and darker and darker. And that is what you don't want to have in your organization.
That's right. And so you always have to take action, which goes back to what we originally said, is it has to be alive. That's why it has to be alive. It has to be in fluid motion, communication, living it, examples. And whatever culture you want to build that's the one you want to do. And for the person that's listening to this and goes, well, my level is so and so. What can I do at my level? Well, easy. You still have a voice, even if it's just with your peers, and you don't want to talk to your manager. It's perfectly fine. It's where we are, right? But you still have a voice. Then see if you could be the light, the influence for your other peers. See if you resonate with that. It starts very small. It starts with yourself, then start expanding out with your peers. Then maybe you will have enough courage saying, hey, this actually is working. I feel better. I'm happier coming to work. And if your manager is able to see this, he should be able to see this. But if he's not, then you can actually voice it out. So work
Maybe
yourself up. Sorry, work he or she. Yes. I apologize. I mean both. Thank you for keeping me honest. So you can work it out. So absolutely. So it could be done at any different level in your own small way. And it's perfectly fine, because don't think small about your impact, because your impact could still be huge. Small way, I mean, in your little things that you want to do, meaning little initiatives that you want to take. That's what I mean by small. Okay. Because you all have a voice. Trust me when I tell you, you all have a voice. Okay. That's the way it really works. So just speak up. It's okay.
I can give you two small examples about that, because I was really first when I started, I didn't have any team responsibility. I was on a level where I was. And for example, Monday and Tuesday, I always wanted to pick my child up. But the culture in the company was that the most of the meetings, they put at the afternoon till the late evening, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and myself, I started communicating very clear. You want to have an appointment with me? Monday, 7 a.m. till 3 p.m., Tuesday, 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. And at the beginning, there was people not really happy because I needed to attend some meetings, but they learned that are my values. I do my work, but I have another priority. So I started changing also this culture of putting meetings at 7 p.m., in every single area. And when I took over the responsibility for a whole team, and after that for like 10 different teams across different projects, I started implementing one of my highest value is to stop doing over hours, to really be more effective, be more like r- respecting also the work life balance back there are taught, now I say life integration, but back there to really like experience your life and not your work. And then I saw how committed my team members became, way more committed. When sometimes we needed to stay way, way longer because they needed, and the rest of the time I don't force them. So they wasn't angry about when sometimes happens. And, we had a completely different way of communicating and trusting each other. And that was so beautiful because we supported each other. We didn't felt obligated, but instead we felt like, okay, I know I've been respected. My time is respected. And sometimes when it's a little needed to do this, deadline to meet it, then they were even willing to do it by themselves, even if I sometimes needed to force them go at home. And that's the beauty. Like Pedro said, you are a powerful being. You're so powerful in your area. And when you start just feeling this power within you and this courage, believe me, everything starts shifting around you.
Yeah, and I feel compelled to just remind them again that no matter the role, no matter the responsibilities, you are a very critical part of your organization. And you're also a very critical part of your family.
Oh yeah.
You're very
Friendships
important.
circle.
Absolutely. Friendships, right? Partners, right? Mother, father. You are a very important piece of that. So don't ever diminish your ability. Don't ever diminish your presence. And please don't ever, ever give away your sovereignty and your empowerment because you have it. We're all born with it. Just tap into it. Okay. And you'll be okay. So don't forget you have that ability to Anna's point. You absolutely do, no matter what you do.
And if the culture doesn't works for you, move on.
Like we said, it's fluid, right? The definition of fluid.
Exactly. Do you have some finalizing words on this topic?
Yeah, I just want to touch base a little bit more into the personal side, right? Because we've spoken a lot about the corporate side, the career base. So let's talk about how can we enhance our culture at home. Let's finish off with that. So here's a couple of things that if it resonates with you, totally up to you, right? The one thing you need to do because of what we're doing is how do you want to connect with the people at home? How do you want to connect with your friends? So connection can mean anything for many different people. Connection can mean literal physical connection, right? Like being there physically present means just talking over the phone, right? Or simply just being present, meaning even you're in front of somebody, you're literally present at that point in time and paying a lot of attention to them and making sure you're truly listening. So understand how you want to connect. I'm not going to tell you how to connect because that's an individual choice, but figure out how you want to connect, what makes you feel good, right? And what creates that unity. Because at home, I'm a firm believer, it should all start with love and compassion, right? So, and your definition of love, whatever that is. But how do you connect? Second, after you figure out how you connect, how do you understand the connection? So, what does that mean? So, understanding the connection means this is what I'm doing. My thing right now to be connecting with I'm going to say my wife. I'm going to be present every time I'm having dinner with her. Every time I'm with her, I'm literally so focused on her. Now, I'm explaining to her, this is so important to me. I'm literally using words. This is so important to me. And I'm going to give you my undivided attention. So now I'm not only doing physically, automatically, I'm literally telling her so she understands how I'm connecting with her. And then I ask her, how do you want to connect with me? So even though we're doing things automatically and we think we're doing it right, right, and the other person should understand it, no, 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 no. Speak it, communicate how the understanding of the connection is important. Then the last thing, right, is consistency. Consistently doing it. Don't do it for one day and say, okay, you're good to go. I'll see you next week, right? We'll have dinner next week.
Today open communication, and tomorrow we don't talk to each other.
We go back to work.
Exactly. When we have our discussion, I don't talk to you,
Exactly.
and that is, oh, that's so beautiful. You see how important culture is in the challenging situation, not in the beautiful moments when everything is chilled and not pressure and everything good, but in the moment when there is a challenges in your relationship, in your family, in the company, that is where the culture is like the base of everything, because, for example, in the example from Pedro, if my partner and I decided open communication always, no matter what, is important, and we had a fight, and my partner used to, when the fight is very heavy, used just to go out, and it's gone. There was even time where he was gone for 1-2 days, avoiding confrontation. My way of communication was, or my way of, this fight was to talk it through. So that means when we decided and defined, we always want to communicate, no matter what our egos, how hurt they were in this moment, is we know, okay, the culture is that what's connect us together. Doesn't matter how I used to do it before or how he used to do it before, is, that is what we define as our culture, as a part of our, communication or getting together, and then implementing it, really just going and forcing you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is exactly, Pedro, what you try to say, why so important is to have this communicated values and culture. So you or your wife can say, okay, that is what we both aligned. That is what is important for me. That is what is important for you. That is what we align. And we should stick to this because we align to this culture, because culture is something that we all align to live by, right?
Exactly. And the consistency, meaning even though you're having a bad day, if you're having a bad day, guess what? You need to just tell your partner, listen, before we communicate like we're used to, I'm just letting you know I had a really rough day. Right. And it's hard for sometimes people to say that because you're in the moment, right? You're emotional, right? Whether you're angry or for whatever happened or you're frustrated, right? But just let them know in advance real quickly before you actually start expanding that conversation. Because here's what's happening. If you're having a bad day, all these emotions are stirring inside of you. You're not really going to listen to the other person because you're already thinking about what happened. You're thinking about the next thought. You're thinking about everything but what the other person is saying, right? So it's really, how do you listen properly? It's a kind of difficult. We're having a really difficult day that needs to be expressed. So always let them know, because if you let them know, hopefully your partner will also hold space for you and say, hey, listen, got it. I understand. Just let him vent. Let him or her vent. It's okay. And don't take it personally. Let it out. Because you don't want to bring that stuff inside of your relationship, right? Just let it out. Let it out. And know that they're letting it out, not to you, not towards you, but just something that they need to get out of their chest. So it's okay. But see, giving them that little heads up is so tiny, is a very innocent thing, right? It's so important because it will diffuse everything else after that. That's why just let them speak and just give the little heads up.
And you can do it even with your child, believe me. I started communicating with my child and sometimes telling him, mommy. So that is how I call him. It's like something coming from Bulgaria. Mama means mom, the same like in English, but mommy is like the child of me. It's like a very interesting way to explain it. So I say, mommy, I don't feel currently very, well, I had a little like rough day and so on. So don't have the energy or the capacity too much, for depending on what we wanted to do. And let him know, because I learned when I allow myself to express my own emotions and not to try to hide it. So to be the perfect mom, I allow my child also to open with his challenges and his emotions. And that is something, especially as my child is now going into the puberty time, teenager, it allows him to come to me and communicate very challenging topics with me, and to know that I'm just going to hold a space for him and he can express it without feeling judged, and know that, I just going to give him this space, because I also share when I don't feel very good. Sometimes we think as a parents, we need to hide the emotional roller coaster, or we need to hide our conflicts with a partner. But what we teach the children is that conflicts are done under, behind closed doors and so on. Instead to see, okay, you can have a fight and you find a resolution for this conflict, So this is a part of our culture, meanwhile, and that's so important. Open conflict, really like to be able to have a conflict, to have a fight, to say this way, and to be very honest. And even if sometimes goes like a little more above the regular voice frequency, to say this way, to know, okay, you can always find the path back and to say, sorry for this. It wasn't the right way to do it. That is what I actually meant, or that is what it hurts me, And when you put it in your culture, in your family culture, it will also expand in your friendship circles. It will expand in your work, because what is your value and a part of the culture in the family also expand in the outside.
Thank you. Beautifully said.
So we're coming to the end. And of course, if you had some aha moments or something that really like inspires you or made you laugh, then don't forget to give a thumbs up, because with every thumbs up, you help that more people get the chance to listen to this and to get value for themselves. And if you're for the first time here or reoccurring, don't forget to follow if you still didn't do it. Hit this bell button. Every Wednesday, you are getting the new episode. Doesn't matter where are you, YouTube or like all the other podcast platforms. And we are looking forward to connect with you next week with me, Anna.
And Pedro.
And
thank you.
To see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below and don't forget to like and subscribe.